Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. You know what I'd like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we are going to be on fire for the life of a bush pilot. My guest today is Ron Carpenter, and we are talking about his book, Bush Pilot. Now, you know what I'm going to tell you to do. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Ron. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
It's a pleasure meeting you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, as is tradition here on the show, we always give our guests an opportunity to introduce themselves to perhaps a few people out there that are unfamiliar with you or your work. So my first question to you is Ron, what makes you you?
Well, I'm an adventurer. I'm a health nut. I like being outdoors and seeing God's picture of the country.
I can definitely understand that. As someone who has traveled, not to Alaska, unfortunately, but as someone who has traveled, you're so right. The country is just so beautiful when we get away from all of the hustle and bustle and we see God's creation out there. It really and truly is beautiful. You're right about that. So being an author, is that something that you always wanted to do, or did you find that it simply presented itself along your life path?
No, it just presented itself along my experiences. I did write the book, and people that read it said, "Oh, you ought to publish it." So that's how I got started, by my friends liking what I wrote.
Absolutely. And thank God for those friends that can encourage us, that really do those positive things in our lives that actually result in a positive effect. I love it. I love it. Now, the title of your book, I don't want to assume that it's really obvious and that you happen to be a bush pilot, but how did you come up with the title Bush Pilot?
Because not too many people know what a bush pilot does. A bush pilot is a man that takes his life in his hands every time he took off to go to a native village to pick up one of the people there that's in the village and take them to another village. The conditions were so extreme that it was dangerous.
Yeah. If it weren't for the popularity, you're right. If it weren't for the popularity of several of the new Alaska shows that they have on TV, we would not know anything about living in Alaska. We wouldn't know, and I'm not even talking about, culture or tradition, just simply how to survive in Alaska. We wouldn't know anything about that. So you're right. Most people do not know that. You're so true. Now, we think of Alaska as a place that is very wide open, very vast, and extremely cold. We think of planes as being modes of transportation, but is it the same as flying, in a commercial flight? How did you manage to make sure that you were warm when you were supposed to be warm and you were cool when you were supposed to be cool?
That's funny you should ask that. But when you're in Alaska, you learn everything the hard way. If you don't know what it is, you'll soon find out. To stay warm, you have to know what kind of clothes to wear. And everything in Alaska is remote. The only way to get there is either by plane, dog sled, or boat. And it's very dangerous no matter how you go. And the food and the clothing and the people are wonderful. Once you get them to know you and that in your habits that you're trustworthy, then they open up. But other than that, they're very people that like to be isolated.
Yeah, and I can definitely understand that. Now, when you are flying during the winter months, is there anything special that you need to do to prepare not only yourself but your passengers as well for the air time while you're up in the air during the winter? Do you do anything special?
Not really. I mean, we don't fly any when it's colder than 45 below zero, because you can't keep the interior of the airplane warm enough. So that's our limit. 45 below zero, we don't fly. But anything out there, we fly in, whether it's snow, cloudy, or whatever, we'd fly.
Now, I know that some folks are going like, what? That is absolutely crazy. But I do know that some of my Midwest friends, some of my Northern friends, we remember those days when it was, maybe -10 or -20. So we have a little bit of a recollection there about what that feels like. So that's good to know that there are those safety precautions there. Now, you talk about, that everything is quite remote. Unfortunately, the many folks that are, here in the lower 48, we're kind of spoiled. We want something to eat. We go to the grocery store. We go to a local restaurant and we get it. What is the diet like in Alaska when you live in the places that happen to be remote?
Well, like Arctic Village, that's living right in the Arctic. All they eat is what they can kill. Polar bear, grizzly, seals, whatever. That's what they eat, and fish. It's either fish or meat. They don't have no vegetables. They have, except they can grow wild. I don't know all the name of the herbs that they can eat, but they live off the land. They don't have a grocery store they can go in and get, milk and stuff like that.
I can definitely understand that. And I happen to watch two of those shows that talk about living life in Alaska. And it is quite beautiful, even though you are away from your nearest neighbor could be, over 100 miles away or so.
Yes.
It is such a beautiful land. And I think it's great how part of the custom and the tradition is to pass on those bits of information, to the next generation. Use this wood, but don't use this, or get this herb, but don't use this one. So you're so right about that. Now, is it true that during the winter months, we hear that Alaska has no sunshine, or like there's very little daylight? Is that true? Can you tell us about that if it is?
Yeah, yes, that is true. If you're closer to the Arctic, you have no sunshine. The further from the Arctic, you have maybe at the most 4 hours of sunshine. But like in Fairbanks, you have no sunshine because it's close to the Arctic. And you have 6 months of that.
Oh, wow. I think that most people think that that's an exaggeration. They're thinking it can't possibly be that long. People are putting extras on it. It's probably a month or two. It's not half the year. But you're saying that it is 6 months and you just learned. Now, is it the type of darkness that we would think about in it, any town, your town, USA, that it's simply like nighttime, but you just learn how to go about your day as though it's just simply nighttime all the time? Is that a good way of thinking about it?
Yes, it's night all the time, and it's most people don't enjoy it. They get what they call cabin fever, so that leads to drinking and other stuff. overcome the darkness.
Uh-huh. I can understand. I can understand that. Now, is there I don't want to say a handbook, but like, if you are an adventuresome type person, and you say, you know what, I'm moving to Alaska, what are some of the things, in your opinion, when you first get there, like your first 6 months of being there, what are some things that you really need to make sure you get done? What's on your top, 2 or 3 to-do list?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I'll use me as an example. When I first went to Alaska, I came from Arizona. I didn't know a thing about Alaska, how to do things. And most people will move into a trailer, but now you can move into an apartment. So there's not too much you have to know except driving on ice and snow. But when you first go out into the boonies, you move into a trailer. And in the wintertime, you have to have heat tape on your pipes and wrapped around with some kind of insulation. If you lose your heat tape, then your pipes freeze up, and then you're under the trailer thawing out your pipes and putting in new heat tape. And what a heat tape is, it's a cord plugged into an AC outlet that warms up the wire, which keeps your pipes from freezing. It's low voltage, but it's enough to keep the pipes from freezing. And what you have to know is you have to dress up warm. Don't wear leather shoes. Most people wore tennis shoes. Because leather shoes freezes and it doesn't keep your feet warm. And the best, garb that I discovered, but they don't have that now. Now everything's modern up there. All the villages have hard surface runways. Before it was mud and gravel and ice and snow. But what's the best clothing I found for myself was wearing skins. Oh, you still there? Hello?
So wearing skins?
Yeah, I heard a funny sound on my phone. Anyway, back then skins was like wolf parka for a jacket. Oh, that was the warmest thing you could wear. And the natives made me mukluk, which is made from moose soles with caribou upper caribou hide with the fur on it. And you'd be so warm you'd have to change your socks 2 or 3 times a day because you'd sweat. And if you sweat in your boots, it'd freeze and your feet would freeze. These are things you learn as you live in Alaska. That was back in the old days, back in the 60s.
Oh, but it's still good to know those things, Unfortunately, so many of us have not had to do anything other than this modern living. Like you don't go camping or hiking, or you've never been through basic training or anything like that, so you just don't know anything about being prepared for living off the land. So I think it's always great to have that information. You just never know. Well, Ron, it is time for us to go to break, but before we do, can you remind everyone, please, of the title of your book and where we can get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
You can get a copy of the book through Transmedia Agency. If you want to get in contact with me, I can give you my email address, which is ronc5037@gmail.com.
Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Bushchester. My guest today is Ron Carpenter, and we are talking about his book, Bush Pilot. I love it. Well, Ron, my next question for you is, I talked many times about walking in your purpose, that I believe that God has given all of us a to do, something that we are supposed to do while we are here on earth. So my question is about the purpose in being a bush pilot. What would you say is the main purpose of operating in that function and living your life as a bush pilot?
Well, with me, I felt honored to be able to fly and pick up the native people and fly them safely to their destination. I felt there was a need for my expertise, and to prepare for that, you have to learn to fly with it's almost like playing Russian roulette. You don't know what's going to happen the next day or when you're flying, and you have to learn how to cope with all these different scenarios that you run into. Mud runways, icy runways. You have to practice and know how to do these landings and takeoffs safely. And when you master that, you feel great because you're feeling that you're helping the people get from point A to B safely. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. I love that. I think you're right. When you do something with a sense of, honor and gratitude and appreciation and just a passion for what you are doing, it speaks volumes. And I think others are able to feel how genuine you are in doing the work that you do, whatever that is. So I love that. Now, you've mentioned before that, we're talking wide open spaces. Well, that if something happens, when we're traveling, within the states in the lower 48, you sometimes feel pretty safe, right? It's like, oh, if something happens, I'll just call AAA. Now, the further you start to get out into, the countryside, into the farmland, you make sure you are well prepared to get your gas, all that stuff, because you know that you're going to be in wide open spaces. But Alaska is even more wide open space. So what do you do if something goes wrong, or heaven forbid, you actually have like an accident? What do you do when you're in the middle of nowhere?
Well, I'm going to use myself as an example. I was taking trappers to their remote cabin on a ski plane. I had an accident. My engine quit, and we crash landed. I was hurt, and the only way they contacted me was through the ELT in my airplane, which is a emergency locator beacon. They pick up the signal and they can hone in on where you're located, and they'll fly over, and someone can talk on the plane radio and tell them exactly where they're at. That's the only safety avenue you have if you run into trouble, is that airplane with the radio, if you're able to use it. If not, you got to build a big fire. And myself, I light a big pine tree on fire so everyone can see it for miles around. And what's nice about Alaska, you can see 100 miles, no problem. The air is so clear.
That's true. Oh, wow, how smart just to know to do that, and that means something special. Don't ignore it. Don't go, oh, wow, there's a fire, and just ignore it, but to know that is the smoke signal for come and help. I love it. We are learning something today, and that's what I like. Now, you kind of touched on it a little bit before, and that's dealing with the Native Alaskans that are there. Did you find that it took a while for you to understand customs and traditions of the land to be able to really assimilate, or did you find that it was quite easy and everyone kind of welcomed you? I know many times we get that when we think about living in the South or living in the Midwest, that people are so warm and welcoming, and they're still kind of traditional and like, hi neighbor, and really inviting people in. Did you find the same to be true? Even though you were from Arizona, welcome to Alaska.
No, the natives, like I say, they're very, most of them are introverts. They like being by themselves and they don't talk much. The only way you ever get them to talk is when they feel like they can trust you, and then they make you feel that you're a wanted person and they like to be your friend. But other than that, you gotta build up the trust before they will even talk to you. That's the Native Americans.
It sounds like almost like being in the big city. It's the other way around, where it's like, yeah, that's my neighbor, but just keep on going. So yeah, I can understand that particular point of view. Now, for someone who did live in the lower 48 and then you moved to Alaska, I'm sure there are pros and cons with both locations. When someone asks you, where is home? Like, where does your heart love the most? Would you say that Alaska has won you over and your heart is there? Or do you simply, wherever you are is home and that's where you love?
Well, I try to make everywhere I live is my home, but I did love Alaska. I spent many years up there. I loved the people. I loved being with them. I liked hunting with them. The only time they were kind of disgusting is when they got drunk. Then they become a different person. Everybody, I guess, it has that happen to them. But I loved Alaska, and I would have made it my home, but it started turning out to be like in the lower 48 state. They were having trouble with drugs, alcohol, thievery. Before, you never had to lock your door or anything like that. But after the pipeline, it brought in all the scum, and you had to lock all your doors, everything, because it just changed everything when they opened up the pipeline.
Yeah, I can understand that with change there comes changes. I tell you, that is so true, and learning new ways, because not everyone will appreciate your hard work and effort to keep things the way they are. So I do understand that. Now, if you could give some advice to a younger person who is thinking about writing a book. Now, I have so many people who write in and they say, Dr. Angela, we really appreciate that you ask the authors those types of questions about looking back, or tips that they can give us, because it really helps. So that's my next few questions for you. If there's a young person out there that's trying to decide whether or not they want to become an author, do you have any words of encouragement for them?
Well, I would use my own experiences to start the book. You can fabricate stories after that, but base it on true facts, something that happened in your life, or it happened to somebody. But you have to start out with true facts before you write a book.
Absolutely. I like that. Yeah, you need something that can ground you and ground the story. If not, you could be all over the place. So I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I tell you, Ron Carpenter, thank you so much for coming on and spending time with us here today and talking about your book, Bush Pilot. I love it. Before I let you go, though, one last time, can you remind everyone of where they can pick up a copy of your book? And, of course, how do we stay in contact with you?
Yeah, purchase a book through Transmedia Agency, and you can contact me and ask questions through my email, ronc5037@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you again, Ron, for spending time with us here today on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Thank you very much for the interview.
And listeners, thank you so much for spending time with us as well. We hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you. As always, may the Lord continue to shine His face upon you. May you receive His grace and His mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. You know what I'd like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today, we want to get you fired up about life after death. That's right. I have a guest on today that's going to tell you something that's going to change the way that we look at what's on the other side. So go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. My guest today is Norah Wilson, and we are going to talk about her book, Heat, Running Water, and a Bathroom Presents Not Yet. Good morning, Norah. Thank you so much for joining me here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Good morning, Dr. Angela. How are you?
I am well. I am so glad to have you back on the show. Yes, you are a multi-book author. That's right. You are a multi-book author, so you have so much to share with us. And I'm so glad that you're on to talk to us about the book Not Yet. Now, there may be a few folks out there that didn't catch the other interview. So before we get started with your book, if you would please, can you give us a little bit of what makes you you?
Well, I am somebody that's always into life itself, just the small things that people a lot of times overlook, but you can't have life without it. And I am a mother of many children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. I love to cook for all these wonderful people in my family. I like to sing, and I like to do artwork as far as dabbling in paint and things like that. So, I like to write. I write a lot.
Speaking of writing, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you just find that with this book, again, it presented itself to your spirit at the right time?
Well, a little bit of both. I never looked at myself as a writer until actually it just grew on me. But this book was something that I wrote because I was inspired to share this experience with whoever I could share it with, because it has answers to so many people, their questions. But once I tell them, it's hard to digest.
Right. I can understand that. Now, speaking of the book that we're talking about today, Not Yet, I want to give you an opportunity to explain. This isn't like your subtitle, but this is almost like a preface, if you will, or a forward. That the heat, running water, and a bathroom presents Not Yet. Can you tell us about what is the heat, the water? What's that all about?
Okay. I'm going to say this really, really quick as I can. When I was asked over and over and over again to write a book, I need to write a book, about all the things that I have experienced. And so one day when I was 50 years old, I gave in to that desire that it was really something I really wanted to do, but I was hesitant in doing it. So I gave in and I said, okay, I'm going to write a book. Then I thought, well, gosh, what would I call it? What would the title be? So the Spirit led me all the way back when I was about 12 years old, walking down the street, coming from school. I had to walk to school, walk back home, and then go back after lunch and then come back after school is over. So this one particular day, I was walking down the street and it had rained. It was mud all over the place and it was cold. And I was thinking, all I want is heat, running water, and a bathroom, because I didn't have the luxury of having heat in my home. We had a coal stove, but we didn't have the money to buy the coal to go in it. And we didn't have electricity. We didn't have plumbing. So I really wanted the basic things in life. So the Spirit brought that back to me. This is what your title will be. And I heard that title, it was a spiritual presentation to me. Heat, running water, and a bathroom. So that is my pen name for all of my books. Heat, running water, and a bathroom present Not Yet.
I love it. I love it. And it is such a beautiful way to pay homage to where from the humble beginnings in which you started, so that you can be reminded of how far you have come. And I know that for so many people, they say, "Oh, well, it is by the grace of God that I have gotten as far as I have." That is true. But God has also given us, the intelligence, the brilliance to be able to live a life full of abundance. And you have been able to start in one place and end in another. He gave you talents and you multiplied the gift that you were given. So that is definitely a beautiful, beautiful story. I love it. Now I want to ask you about the title of the title of your book as well, Not Yet. How did you come about the title? And the flip side, can you tell us a little bit, if I'm understanding correctly, the story is about you. Is that right?
Yes. Well, what happened was, first of all, I was married. I just had our baby. She was less than 3 months old. But I know I had taken her to her first week or her 6-week checkup. So she was born in January the 4th, on a Monday, 4:55 p.m. And my house that I was in, the little two shack house, it was damaged, and the furnace caught a fire when I was pregnant, and that ended up having me go into labor, and I had a preemie baby. But remember, my home that I lived in as a child, it was terrible. but I had to go somewhere after I had my baby, me and my husband. So I went back to my parents' house, and that was a blessing, but it was, well, I won't say a cursing, but it was something that led me to where eventually I got sick. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. And so this one particular morning, I was laying in the bed. I had got up and seen my husband off 7 o'clock in the morning, and he lit the little oil stove. And no, it was little electric furnaces that he had. And the next thing I know, I began to feel hot all over and different an odd sensation. And I gave up the will to live. I know what that feels like. I just didn't care to live anymore. I was so sick. And while I was out of my body, making a long story short, I was looking to who would take care of my baby. And I went to my mom's house, and she didn't know I was there. I saw her doing what she was doing. And then I went to Springfield, Ohio. I saw my sister, and I came to the conclusion when I asked this question in the spirit, who's going to take care of my baby? And the answer was just this. I was dropped back into my body, but at that same time, 2 words were spoken, not yet. Well, I felt, I didn't like that. It was a horrible feeling. I did not want to come back. I did not think about coming back, but my daughter is the reason why I came back. I was her guardian angel down here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so interesting that you say that, because I could see a lot of moms nodding their head going, absolutely. If it weren't for your children, there would be a lot of people that would just kind of be on their own, so to speak. Because it's like, man, but I have to be there for my kids. I know when I found out that I had breast cancer, even though I wasn't having a near death or an out of body experience, even in that very full awake moment, I thought, what about the kids?
Right.
So absolutely, I can only imagine the seriousness of your thought process of making sure that everyone was going to be okay. Now, before this happened to you, were you the type of person that believed in life after death in any format, in any way, shape, or form?
Well, I could bluntly say absolutely not. But really and truly, now this happened to me when I was just 2 months after turning 20. And at that age, I didn't know what to believe at that time. To be honestly, what did I know about God? I mean, I didn't. At that time, I knew my mom was religious, and she raised me up that way. But that was my mom, and I had no experience I had no mindset that shook me up to where, I believe in God. I said that. Sure I did. But that was just, I said that. I did not know what faith was. I didn't know anything about the spirit, never thought about it. So when this happened to me, it was such a shock. I won't say I didn't want to think about it, but I couldn't think about it. And there's so many things that had happened to me to where life went by without me even thinking about it because I didn't want to. I didn't know what to make out of what happened to me. All I knew I came out of my body. I could see my body laying in the bed, and I was flying faster than anything imaginable. I heard all this noise in my ears. It was a combination of like a lot of seagulls, birds flapping their wings or squawking, a combination of that. But I've never been to the ocean. I've never seen any of those birds. So that was all. I mean, it was the thing that happened to me. It was so perplexing that it was just too much to think about. So no, I didn't believe in life after death. And if somebody told me that could happen, I would say, okay, all right, that's you.
I can definitely understand that. Well, Norah, it is time for us to go to a commercial break. But before we do, can you remind everyone, please, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And of course, how do we stay in contact with you?
The title of my book is Heat, Running Water in a Bathroom presents Not Yet. You may buy my book at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or you can go through my website at norahgwilson.com, exlibris.com.
Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. My guest today is Norah Wilson, and we're talking about her book, Heat, Running Water, and a Bathroom presents Not Yet. Now, Norah, my next question for you is about the difference in experience. Is there, in your mind, do you believe that there's a difference between a deathbed experience and an outer body experience, or do you think that they are similar enough that they're the same thing, just called or referred to as different things by different people?
They're different like day and night. When you have a deathbed experience, or bedside experience, I would put it that way, is when this one person described it to me as when this person is in the bed or lying down wherever in the chair, and they know they're going to die, and they'll make a confession, or they'll see things spiritually, but they are still living. They haven't came out of their body spiritually. But with a deathbed experience, when you actually are separated from your body, the body that you live in, you are definitely in this body. You are a spirit. Everybody is a spirit. So when you have that awareness that you are up and you're floating and you're flying, but you're not, it's no wings, you are moving, that, you feel that, and you see, you can go places where it wasn't where you were at first. And then when you can actually know without a doubt you are here and that body is down there, I know without a doubt that I am a spirit. And I know in Jeremiah 1 verse 5 it says, before you was in your mother's belly, I knew you. Wow. What did the Spirit know you as And where was you at before you were in your mother's womb, before you were conceived? You were a spirit. And where do you know all spirits came from? Around the throne of God. Wow. So what are those spirits called around the throne of God? Angels. Angels. Duh. This is what the Spirit showed me. And it's only two kinds. There's only two kinds of angels. The ones that were of darkness and the ones that are of light. Well, wow. Wow. But there's the things that I know you could take this, you can make me come out of my body by taking the life out of this body, but I still know the truth. I still know that I am a spirit. I am an angel spirit because that is of God. So meanwhile, I used to feel like I was a nobody, nothing, nobody, from the way I was raised. My daddy left me when he found out Mama was pregnant with me. They were married. He left her, and he told me I didn't want no more things like you. That hurt me. That crushed me all of my life. But when I didn't grasp that who I was until years later. Accept it. When I was 32 years old, that's when I accepted. I'm an angel. But don't just go flying off now. Come on. By the Spirit of God, I'm an angel. But people still gonna treat you the same way until they know who they are. That's right.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, do you think that you feel differently? Do you think that now that you have this new opportunity and you have, a new sense of a new lease on life, do you feel that physically you feel different than others?
But,
How has your, go ahead.
There's times when I feel like, oh wow, when I get to thinking about, coming back down to listening what people say, and people don't say what they're gonna say, but because of my experience, I'm on the radio telling you, hey, I'm an angel. Now, wow, get a load of that. She thinks she's an angel. Who do you think you are? You're not an angel. Well, as a matter of fact, I am. I'm a spirit. And an angel is a spirit. You just don't see me from my body. This angel spirit is inside this body. And that scripture, it says, be aware of how you entertain a stranger, for you may entertain an angel unaware. You don't know who you're speaking, but definitely there are a spirit in that body. Yeah. But the spirit has changed me, has given me fortitude. The Spirit has given me fortitude. It's, given me that spiritual right that can't nobody take away. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, do you think that when it first happened to you, especially, that you may have been in denial of any part of it? Did you have a tough go at sharing your experience with others?
It's like I had amnesia, okay, until I was about 26, 27 years old. And I saw something, and I went into a mind spin. I did not know how in the world did these people know what happened to me. They're telling my story. It was a movie I went to, not because I wanted to go, but I was invited by my husband to go see this, to just get out of the house. And when I saw this movie, and it was called Beyond and Back, I had no idea. I wasn't all that caught up with, what it was about. But when they started talking about coming out of their body and hovering, oh man, I remember standing up in the theater. I wanted to just leave. How did they know that I was going bananas? And because I never told, I had gone through a divorce with my first husband, so my second husband had no idea what was going on. I never spoke to anybody about this. So after he got me calmed down, it took me some years. I thought about. I actually embraced what happened to me. I thought about it piece by piece, what I experienced. But I didn't talk about it to nobody, not even to my husband. But like when I went to the doctor and I thought I was having an asthma attack, and they finally told me I got good news and bad news. So they told me the good news, I was expecting my third child. But then they asked me the bad news, when did you have your heart attack? A heart attack, I never had a heart attack. Well, you got scar tissue on your heart. What? So I wondered when, and it took me years to actually understand that when I actually came out of my body, I got the evidence on my heart to show my heart stopped. But the Spirit healed me and just gave me a little signature on my heart. I've been there. I repaired you. Oh my God. I'm talking about.
I love it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh no. I mean, where other people, like you said, other people would have been upset or disappointed or whatever, but you took it as a beautiful reminder of what you had not only gone through, but what you survived. So I love it. I love it. Now, how do you think that this experience has helped you to understand the world around you better? I'll give you an example. I know when I talk about, waking up from having my surgery, dealing with breast cancer, that I understood. I now have a second chance at life. Do not waste it. Not everyone. We assume so much.
Mm-hmm.
We assume that we're going to see tomorrow. We assume that our family is going to be there, so on and so forth. And it was at that moment that I realized that how precious truly it was for me to be alive. And I said, Lord, I want to do something awesome every day. Yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. Did you have a similar experience like that? Did you realize, hey, the world, you view it a little differently, that it really is as precious as how our grandparents or seniors would tell us?
Well, that is a big question, and my mind began racing on how to answer that. I know that it's so easy to be going to people, asking them to help you do this, or can you help me in this situation? But there's an old song that I used to sing when I was a child. It's not my mama, it's not my father, but it's me, oh God, standing in the need of prayer. There comes a time, and it's more than just a time. You need the Spirit, not every day, not every once in a while, not every minute. How often do you breathe? You need the Spirit to give you your every breath. So when it comes down to it, being still and being grateful, sometimes you just need to be still and not run to other people, because other people are looking to other people for their answers and their source of help. The Spirit has changed my way of thinking, looking at the world, when I realize the world don't know me and I don't know the world, but the Spirit knows he knows not only every hair has been counted on my head, but he gives me everything I need. Oh, I really need. First of all, I need my breath. All I got to do is inhale. But he gives me the strength to do that. So I'm saying, I don't think the way I used to. And I'm sure the Spirit's going to show me something I won't think about the same way even after today. That's the way the Spirit is. He's ever showing me something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, goodness. I love it. Well, Norah Wilson, I have enjoyed spending time with you today, and I just love how passionate you are about sharing this story. And I believe because you are trying to, as I said in the beginning, enlighten, inspire, and empower others. So thank you so much again for coming on and sharing about your book. Now, before I let you go, though, if you could remind everyone one last time, title of your book, where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
My book is entitled Hate Running Water and a Bathroom presents Not Yet. You may purchase my book at Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, through my website, norahgwilson.com, or through exlibris.com, preferably at exlibris.com.
Absolutely. Thank you again for being on the show today.
You are quite welcome. I've enjoyed myself and look forward to another time with you.
Absolutely. And listeners, thank you for spending time with us here as well. As always, may the Lord continue to shine His face upon you. May you receive His grace and His mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone.